This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call. Vote Chen. Roll call. Sorry.
Mayor Trujillo,
Here.
Commissioner Butcher,
Here.
Commissioner Compost,
Here.
Commissioner Gandy,
Here.
Commissioner Bolt.
Here.
This evening I'll lead us in prayer and pledge. May you with me? Lord, I want to always start my prayers with thank you, and I want to thank you for the year of 2020, Lord. A lot has come upon us, Lord, but a lot of good has come upon us as well, Lord. And I want to thank you for helping us, Lord, get through 2020. I want to thank you for allowing this nation to get through 2020. There's always obstacles in every path that we take, Lord, but we thank you for assisting us in overcoming these obstacles. So we want to thank you for 2020. Going into 2021, Lord, I ask you this evening to lay your hand on our minds, Lord, that we may put a good pact together for our community and for our employees here at the city. I also ask you to bless our nation, Lord, with peace and prosperity in 2021. I ask you also to bless our commissioners, Lord, throughout this year, and watch over us, Lord, as we continue to make our decisions, Lord, to help our community and how we feel is in the best interest of our community. Thank you so much once again, my Lord. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag, the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship amongst united cultures. This evening, we will not have a staff report. We only have public comment. So I'm allowing anybody who wants to stand up. I'll give you 3 minutes to speak their piece for us if they would like.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Did I forget? Oh, excuse me. Yeah. I'm on somewhere else. Thank you, gentlemen. Did I get approval of the agenda? Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
To revise the agenda from resolution 2020-01 to 2020-21. Thanks, 001.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made to revise the resolution by Commissioner Bernard, second by, I think that was Commissioner Gandy, right?
Commissioner Campos.
Commissioner Campos, thank you, Commissioner Campos. Roll call, please, Shannon.
Commissioner Gandy,
Yes.
Mayor Trujillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Campos,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolt,
Yes.
and Commissioner Butcher.
Yes. Motion revised, it's been moved. So now we're moving on to public comment. Anybody like to say anything at 3 minutes? And like I said, I apologize for jumping the gun on that. It's one of them evenings, man. Okay, if we do not have public comment, I'm going to move on to action items. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. Resolution 2021-01, authorizing the budget adjustment to fiscal year 2021 municipal operating budget due to the decreased revenues for option 2 with options of adding. Oh, we'll just do that. We'll just leave that open for discussion.
Commissioner Bernard requested resolution 2021-001, authorizing budget adjustments to FY 2021 municipal operations budget due to decreased revenues. And he opened it up for discussion. Do I have a second?
Before the second, Mayor, did he also make a motion for an option, or did he retract that?
No, he didn't make an option. He revised.
Technically, he did.
He did.
Like that, if he wants to modify and eliminate that language from his motion.
I take that to Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go back in there and modify a resolution for option 2.
You want to leave that in there or?
No. We'll just leave that open for discussion. Or modify.
Okay.
Yes, just read it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just read it off. Okay.
Just restate your motion, sir.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, for resolution 2021 -001, authorizing budget adjustments to the fiscal year 2021 municipal operation budget due to the decreased revenues for option. Increase in budget, yeah. That's stuck in my mind.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Before a second, just to clarify, there is no option on the table for this motion, is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner Campos.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Campos. Motion was made by Commissioner Bernard, second by Commissioner Campos. James?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Commissioners, our finance director is going to take a lead on the discussion of this, but I want to go ahead and just make a couple of comments before turning it over to Gary. As you all are aware, from the outset of the creation of this particular budget, we faced challenges. I know that your city staff, your department heads, they've reacted to the drastic changes that we've seen in the petroleum industry. We've made critical expenditure reduction in order to balance our budget. In addition, through this current fiscal year, they've kept tight controls on those expenditures. Although when our budget was approved, we truly had no means to estimate what the actual impact was going to be on the pandemic on our revenues, as well as the long-term effects of the oil and gas industry. To be honest, we've never really faced, or a community's never really faced something of this magnitude before. Our revenues have been deeply affected by the two factors, and they are related to each other. First, the suppression in petroleum production. We've seen this occur before. However, in this particular case, not only with world events causing to devalue our particular petroleum, but the decrease in the demand, the supply and demand due to the pandemic has really dealt us a blow as well. The second is due to the different shutdowns that we've experienced and are ongoing that have curtailed business activity and also development. And of course, we know that these have been implemented through public health orders issued by the state. If you recall, when I say we, the City Commission, submitted a letter requesting the state's plan or guidance for municipalities as it relates to assistance, mitigating the effects of decreased GRTs, or their thoughts on how they think we can continue to operate with current revenues. To this very day, we haven't received any type of response other than an automatically generated thank you for your submission type message. There is no apparent plan at this time or any type of assistance available to municipalities to deal with the economic repercussions of this pandemic, so we have no option but to make further reductions. When we started this fiscal year, our budget reflected a minimum reserve level. Due to the unanticipated drastic reduction in gross receipts tax, we can no longer sustain our operations at the current level. When we started our budget development process back in March, in April and May, we met with each employee in each department to discuss the budget, the position, and the chance that salaries and benefits can be affected. So it's unfortunate it's come to this point, but we have to make the decisions tonight to make sure that we can continue to operate our municipality for our citizens, but it will affect every single one of our employees. Yesterday, I did have a discussion with each department head to give them an idea of the actions that can be taken tonight by the City Commission and encourage them to pass along that information. And it's my understanding that they have. It's not an easy decision that we have to make tonight, or you have to make tonight, but we do have no choice. To kind of close, I do want to assure the public that although we're making substantial cuts in personnel and benefits, we're still going to be here to conduct the operations of the city. We're going to be doing our jobs with less, but it is our mission to continue to serve the public. It's going to take a little bit longer to get things done, but we're still going to achieve those goals and remain dedicated to what we do for the public. I'm just asking for the public's patience and their support during this time in our history. We've come back from crashes in the past. We're going to do the same with this particular crash as well. We're going to continue to move forward. But thank you, and if I can, I would like to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Gary.
If I may, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I may, your mayor and commission, I'm just going to use this PowerPoint as my template for what to say. Obviously, we're going to be dealing with our fiscal year 2021 municipal operating budget and talking about expenditure reductions.
Here, can all the commissioners see that? Are you guys okay with that?
Yes.
Bolt, Commissioner Bolt, Commissioner Gandy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Gary.
Glad you clarified that everybody can see that. You know, we're all aware that our community's been impacted by the downturn in the oil and the gas industry. Obviously, the effects of COVID-19 have compounded that. For the last 5 months, from July 1st through November 30th, our expenditures were $8,499,620. They exceeded our revenues that we received during that same time period of $8,061,805 by $437,815. In short, we spent more than we got in. The general fund, which supports 80% of our operating budget, ended November with a negative cash balance of $178,603. And just to show you on the spreadsheet where I get these numbers, I have a spreadsheet that shows each fund, the beginning cash balances in the first column, the amount of revenue in the second column that we received. The transfers are just internal movement of money, and then the expenditures, and then an ending balance at November 30th of each of the funds. And you can see at the very bottom, I'm taking the total numbers, the total of the revenues and subtracting expenditures, and that's where the $437,000 comes in. And of course, at the top row is our general fund, and that's where you see the negative 178,600 and something. Geez, I got to use my little sheet in front of me. I think I need a new prescription. One of the things I really want to clarify is the fact that this is a point in time, November 30th. We've already had a month of progress since this time, okay? And if the general fund had a negative balance as of November 30th, that means the 3 payrolls that we've just done, the general fund didn't have money to cover that, okay? And our average payroll for the city of Lovington on a monthly basis is $403,000. Okay, so essentially over this time period, our total payroll from this point was $1.2 million. Just letting you know that while that shows a negative balance of only $178,000, clearly it's been compounded and it is worse. Any questions? Okay. Moving on, as you can see, the loss of gross receipt tax has been a primary cause of our general fund's negative cash balances. Our fiscal year 2021 budget for gross receipt tax was $7,853,201. The total received through December, because I was able to post the gross receipt tax for the month of December, so for 50% of the year was $2,801,760. That's only 35.8% of what we budgeted. That should be at least 50% or higher, but it's not. So our GRT for the month of December, though, was only $374,620. That's almost half what we need to support the current budget for the general fund. If we compare these revenues with the same time periods last fiscal year, we have received $950,784 less in gross receipt tax as of December 31st compared to last fiscal year. And I'm showing that here on this chart. You can see that from the very beginning, starting in July, our first gross receipts for the general fund was $32,000 less. And you can see that it has increased since that point. And that's where we get the total of $950,000 less than last fiscal year. Just comparing the last 2 columns of fiscal, the 2019-20 to 2020-21. And moving on, so our fiscal year 2021 general fund budget for operating expenses is $9,109,000, or basically $759,000 a month. So the total general fund revenues received, which includes more than just the gross receipt tax, through November 30th was $2,784,000, which comes out to $556,000 a month. Obviously, if you take the 556 in revenues and you subtract the 759 for monthly expenditures, we've been overspending the general fund by $202,321 each month, which obviously as of November 30th, or as of that would be a total of, if we take that spending habit, we would spend $1,213,000 by June 30th. That's what I'm wanting to communicate. Did it make sense with that?
And you're talking in regards to our current fiscal year budget, right? If we stay in line with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And what I'm showing here, though, is that if we keep the same budget, our revenues will be short by the end of the year by $1.2 million. That's what I'm sharing right here. We don't have enough. So we have options to try and fix this. Okay. And what we're looking at here is a situation where we put together 3 basic options. Okay. They cover essentially 5 different areas: salary reductions, staff reductions, furloughs, overtime reductions, and then other non-personnel related expenditure reductions. And of course, the variables that we have the greatest control over are the salaries and staff reductions, the overtime and the non-personnel related. There's only so much that we can cut out. That's why we got that $400,000 number there for the non-salary related. And included in that $400,000 is this $130,000 that I've shown here on the left, which essentially is not paying the Lovington Chamber the next 2 quarterly payments, and then only fulfilling our minimum obligation with Main Street, which means we only cut their expenses by another $15,000, and then not paying another payment to the museum by $5,000. And then $85,000 is simply this: we covenanted to use the general fund to pay for our ladder truck, but we can use the fire protection fund to pay for the ladder truck debt payments we have. And so that's where the $85,000 comes in, is a remaining balance of debt payment due for the ladder truck. And that's an eligible expense for our fire protection fund. And so that's kind of a little grant money that we get in that we can use to save the general fund some money. And do I have any questions?
Yes, Gary, Scott Bolt here. I got a couple questions. 400,000 for the non-personnel items. What are we talking about here is the non-personnel items, the reductions?
Essentially, that's a situation where we go to the department heads and say, you must cut dollars out of your budget. And we need a total of 400,000 out of everybody's budgets. So for example, in my case, I'm able to cut money out of some of our paper supplies that we're buying. We've decided to quit sending out late notices that use yellow paper, so we're not going to spend that money anymore. So my department is able to contribute an additional 27,000 toward that 400,000. And each department has different areas. For example, maybe repair and maintenance costs, obviously more supply costs, fuel costs, just a variety of costs throughout our departments.
Okay. Staff reductions. As far as the openings that we have right now, are them figured into the reductions that I received today?
These staff reductions are based on the current number of employees that have been paid since our last payroll, which is 133 employees that have been paid for the last 3 payrolls. So we're talking about reducing 30 from that 133.
Okay, another question. Another question I have. Administration salary reductions. The administration, does that include, and this is, James texted me, I just want to make sure I'm correct. The finance department, executive, legislative, court, code enforcer, and code enforcement, and planning and zoning. Am I correct on that?
No, sir. What the administrative is, that would consist of the city manager, the finance director, the city clerk, the police chief, fire chief, public works director. They are the only salaried or exempt personnel per FLSA. Because of FLSA, you cannot furlough them. The only way to make it equitable is that we would reduce their salary, or reduce the salary by a percentage amount, which would equal that furlough. So they would still put in their full 80-hour pay period, but they would be doing it for less money.
Okay, as far as the furlough we're talking about, are employees able to use sick time and personal time during
No,
that
sir.
furlough?
No, sir.
So they're not allowed to use that.
No, sir.
Okay, I'm good for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Campos?
Yes, I had a question, Mr. Mayor. James or Gary, regarding staff reductions, that does not include layoffs, is that correct?
Mayor, Commissioner Campos, staff reductions are the layoffs.
Or they do include the layoffs?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gandy? Commissioner Gandy, would you have something?
I'm good at the moment. Sorry, I couldn't find my mouse. I'm drowning in
Okay,
paperwork.
no, that's fine. Commissioner Bernard?
I'm good at the moment myself.
I'll take a swing at this. I think when we look at option 1, 2, and 3, I feel that no matter what option we take, I prefer to take the hardest item first, and most likely be, and I believe we could, it doesn't mean we have to go with option 1, option 2, and option 3. We can make adjustments to this, gentlemen. If you want to add, subtract, as long as we come up with a good number that we can all agree on. They just put this in front of us, so we have something to look at and work with. If you don't feel comfortable with option 1 and adding something or subtracting, feel free to open it up for discussion. Personally, I feel that we should go with, I'm not talking about each option, but I feel that we should lay down something pretty solid. I don't want us to come back next month or the month after and continue to take away. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. If it's going to be hard, let's do it, and let's do it once and not have to come back and make adjustments again. I feel personally, and I think you could all most likely agree, is that you take $1 away this month and then next month say, hey, we're going to have to take $1 away from you again. I think it causes headaches. You know, people, let's let them make adjustments on this first whammy, and they can build with that within and then make their adjustments for the next 6 months. And that's the way I feel. All right, open it back up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
question for James. James, which one of these options, obviously they would all allow us to remain within budget. Which one of these options would affect the employees generally less?
Option 3 would, sir.
And that would still fall within the budget restraints that we need at this time, is that correct?
Yeah, that is the least, because that is what accountant Gary has stated, that is what we're going to lose between now and June. So that is the least amount, the very least amount is 1.266 million.
That, yeah, and Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, Commissioner Campos, so option 3, I guess you would say that there is hope at economic recovery before the end of the year, the fiscal year, that is. So it would get us there potentially, but there, a lot of things would have to fall into place.
I appreciate that, James. Personally, I think I would like to hope that things do get better soon. I don't want to, these are tough decisions that we have to make, and I don't take them lightly, especially when we're reducing workforce and people are getting laid off. That weighs heavy on my mind. Personally, I think that we need to, just from my viewpoint, take each employee into consideration and consider what this is going to cost for them. I don't want to hit them hard. I don't want to, especially during these times, and the less we can affect them, I think the better it is for us if we can survive it. I would rather down the road make adjustments as we need to, instead of taking having them take a big hit initially. But that's just my viewpoint. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Commissioner.
If I may, your Mayor and Commission, option 3 does nothing to recover the negative cash balance in the general fund. It just keeps the ship sort of going. Option
understand.
1 gives us a chance to recover some of the negative cash flow.
I understand that, Gary. Thank you.
Gary, Scott Holt again.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bolt.
Have we recently, as of today, looked into any emergency or PPP funds available out there?
Go ahead, City Manager James.
Mayor, Commissioner Bolt, no, sir. We have not found anything that is available to municipalities. We haven't received anything yet.
Okay, another question I have. Do we have anywheres that we have debt that we can refinance from the city, that we can make this not as bad?
If I may, through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
we have borrowed to the point where we're not able to borrow anymore. Our annual debt payments right now, all funds combined, are almost $1.4 million a year. And there really is no agency short of, for example, a local bank that would necessarily give us enough money to carry us over. We're at a point where our debt payments are,
Yes, but refinance.
yeah, the refinancing is not a very likely option for the amount of money we would need.
Okay, another question I have. In the EDC fund, we have $1,781,000 in there. And I understand, I believe 750 was given us from the state for the hemp plan. So if we would deduct that, we'd still have over $1 million in there. Is that money that?
I'm glad that you bring that point up. Just for real clarification, the $1.7 million that's in the EDC fund has been what has paid our payroll the last 3 paydays. It's already spent. A large
So that
portion of it.
figure we have on the paper here is incorrect, right?
It's correct as of November 30th, but I told you that we spent over $1.2 million on salaries.
Yeah, but I didn't know where it was coming from, Gary, so it's kind of hard for me to figure that out.
Yes, sir, I understand that. So if I may, I'll just show this.
Where you going?
It's going slowly. Essentially, what we're showing here on this chart, as of November, what the ending cash balances were with each fund. A month has passed, or more actually, since the date of this report. In that time, monies have been spent. What I should communicate to you is the general fund negative cash balance now is probably, because I don't have the final numbers, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. Other funds have spent money as well. So we have needed that $1.7 million in the EDC fund 311 to support all the other operations. I guess, because I don't have accurate information now, that $2,772,000 is now $1 million or less at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bernard?
Yeah, I would say, I was looking at that option too, with taking, instead of, taking out some stuff, instead of having, the salary reduction, how would it be if we just took it from and put salary reduction to 20% and move the furlough days to 12 days in that option too? How would that work if we move some of that around?
So you were wanting to know, okay, so salary at 20.
Commissioners, on salary reduction, I don't know if you took, if you got note of it, when it says salary reduction on option 2, that means straight across the board from employees all the way to management. So that one's across the board. Option 1 is just management. Option 2, where it states salary reduction, that is across the board, like I said, employees and management.
Yeah, because you do that 20%, we're gonna hit it hard, not like the mayor said, we're not gonna have to come back a month or two and say, well, we're gonna take another few dollars here and there. Why not just add that into option 2? And then, like I say, also add in the 12-day furloughs and go from there instead of the 24 days. I'd like to know just what kind of difference that would really make.
James, could you put the options back up on the screen, please?
Because in reality, that would
Thank you.
make the city, get us up to snuff. Instead of just beating around the bush, we need to try to get her done. And I'm with Commissioner Campbell. I love the city employees, staff, everybody. But we still need to take care of business.
And we still need to take care of the employees. This is not about beating around the bush. This is about making sure that the families are taken care of as best we can. And I think, to me, that's the bottom line.
I agree 100% with you, Paul.
Thank you.
So you were asking, Commissioner Butcher, what were you?
He was asking salary.
Oh, I was just asking on the salary reduction, instead of 15%, why not just go ahead and take the 20%?
For all, or just admin?
No, for all,
All, okay.
straight across. And then then add into the furlough days to that.
And on top of furlough days?
Instead of 20, add to 12.
So a 20% reduction in pay and then an additional 12 furlough days on top of that?
Yes.
I am totally against that. just for the record, Commissioner and Mr. Mayor.
What that, how that would affect it. I'm not saying I'm stuck on that. I am for the employees and their family. I have- But,
I'm not seeing eye to eye on that either.
Commissioner Butcher, you say you're for the families, but you want to increase the salary reduction from those families? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying add it in, yes, because on option one, that's just administration only.
I understand that. Same thing with option 3.
Option three is not gonna really save us. I mean, it's not gonna do anything for us.
So that's going to put more money in the pockets of the families. And that's what I'm looking at,
Okay.
So if
instead of
you,
taking more away from them.
if you cut, and I can't pull it up, Gary's got that easily, but, so if you reduce everyone's salary by 20%, and in addition to that, you do 12 furlough days, that means that they would be making not only 20% less, but then their hours will be cut by, is it 4 hours a week, Gary, for 12 days?
Yes, for the 12 days.
Another additional 4 hours per week. So that's decreasing their pay even more. That would probably, like, maybe a 30, that would be like almost a 30 to 35% reduction.
Yeah, it would be a
It would be a very heavy hit.
How,
Yes, sir.
what was that? I just wanted to see how that would really affect. So,
It would
Thank you.
affect the families by cutting their pay and their hours.
Commissioner Bolt or Commissioner Campos, did you have any
Any options?
or mix up, yes, sir?
Paul, do you want to go first?
Go ahead. I'm still looking at it. I'm eyeing option 3, but I'm trying to decide on what options we can implement within option 3. But go ahead if you want to speak on that.
Okay, well, like I said before, to make a solvent, I read 1.7 million, that's what it said. So 400,000 non-personal reduction, so that's okay. Staff reduction. Let me make sure I got my numbers right here. Overtime reduction, 211,000. Staff reduction, 623. Salary reduction, admin, 15%, 47. I put in, as far as for furlough, 6 days. 6 days, 1 day a month. Adding that total cost together, you come up with $1,434,670. We take,
Commissioner Bolt,
and then what we do is don't hit it hard right now and see where we're at in 6 months. We come back to this and look at it and see if any funding has come in so we can do something different. That we got to take care of the people that are the employees that are working for the city. That's my feeling.
yeah.
I agree with you, Commissioner, as well.
Commissioner Bolt and Commissioner Campos, on staff reduction, that is talking about 30 employees, and that's the 623,000. So when you add that staff reduction, you're letting 30 employees go.
We're looking at staff reduction on every option that you have up there. Unless you
Yes,
come
sir.
up with different options, it's gonna
That's
be
right.
there regardless. So I'd like to see some other options. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, the staff reductions they're in every option.
Yes, sir. No, I just wanted to make sure you guys were clear on that, talking about employees. I just wanted to make sure you guys were clear on that you understood what staff reduction. Yes, sir.
I am
Well, that's
crystal
what-
clear on that.
Okay. Thank you.
That's why I asked City Manager James Williams about that a few minutes ago, just to make sure that we were all clear on what that meant.
Commissioner Poe, can you come back to, what was your first item you said on there, on your option, on changing around? What was your first, the first item? I didn't catch that.
What I said is the only one that I changed, your non-personal reductions, 400,000, overtime reductions, 211,000, staff reductions, 623, salary reductions, 47,000, furlough days, 6 days. That's 1 day a month. That
Okay,
makes out to a total for the 6 days, if my math is correct from what I got from James, we're talking about $25,457.09 a day. Multiply that up, you come up with $152,742.54. So if you add that there with the other reductions that you have in there, it comes out to $1,434,670.68.
so you're going back, let me clarify that. So you're going back to option 1 with 6 days then with furloughs, right?
Option 1 is not 6 days, sir.
I mean, no, change it around from 24 days to 6 days. Is that correct? I'm just trying to picture where you're at. So you're, on option 1, you want to drop it down to 6 days instead of 24 days, right? And everything else is the same? Is that what I'm understanding?
I think he was talking about option 3.
Option 3.
3, yes, sir.
Okay, option 3, the only change you want to make out of option 3 would be 6-day furloughs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Commissioner.
And if anybody else has got options, please put them out there because I'm more than happy to look at all of them.
Yes, thank you for that, Commissioner Bolt. Question for James. In Commissioner Bolt's option, removing the 12 days and reducing that to 6 days furlough, would that keep us afloat or would that still be short?
Well, as Mayor Commissioner Campos, as Gary had mentioned, option 3 would do nothing to allow us to start recovery of any type of reserves unless RTs came in more than what we had anticipated, which we are estimating a loss of at least 205,000 a month. Right. So, and we have a little bit better figure on the 6 days. No, actually, Commissioner Bolt, I believe your math was spot on, 152,742.54. So, but that's the issue with option 3 is that it keeps us going, but does not allow us to replenish.
And that's at 12 days, right, James?
That was at 12 days. With 6 days, you're basically eliminating or decreasing your total savings by about 150,000.
Okay.
Total savings out of that one, yeah. Exactly. So that's a reduction for option 3, it would be 150,000 reduction from option 3.
James, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What are you projecting the next 6 months as gross receipts? What number are you using? Are you using the 374? Are we using 250? Are we using high dream of 430? What are we projecting there?
Stand by. Let me pull up my projections. You have yours.
I would just double the 6 months that we've received, which would be another 2.8 million. Because those are the only numbers I know that we've gotten. However, that's not an average or anything. I would just double it and say that's what we could project we'd get over the next 6 months.
Let me, I've got another, look, I'm trying to pull it up real quick,
But
sir.
Just taking Gary's math, that's about $450,000,
Yes, sir.
460 a month. So,
Oops. There we go. Uh, 466, or, well, 467 is what the average would work out.
that's kind of what I came up with. Thank you.
And that's, from my opinion, I feel that these two GRT's revenues that are going to come in real low. I strongly feel that. I think it's going to be what we received on our last one, if not less. I just don't see enough movement out there to say that it's going to change. Remember, we're still working off last year's GRTs that are coming. We're not working on current movement here in January. We're looking at November, December, which I feel there was really not a lot of movement, both locally or in the oil and gas industry. I'm just afraid that if we're leaning on this, and I understand Paul's and Commissioner Campos and Commissioner Bolt's concerns about our employees, but what worries me is that if we allow this to go on for another month, take a risk to see if it's going to get better, we might find ourselves deeper in a hole than what we are currently. And that's what worries me. I feel that stewards of this community, there's sometimes we have to make decisions, and it does affect the hearts, our own personal hearts as well as our own personal feelings. But I just feel that if we do not make a good decision this night, try to nickel and dime it, we might find ourselves in a worse predicament come February 1st and have to come back for another session and do more changes. But that is whatever the commissioner's will is this evening. Like always, I am a commissioner with the commissioner, so I support the commissioner body as one in the decision we make this evening.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just a couple of, in response to your point, and I don't see any of these options which I would consider lenient. So I don't see anywhere that we would offer any leniency to anybody. And this is a lot more than nickels and dimes. We're talking about a good amount of money that our employees are not going to be taking home anymore. So I don't take that lightly either.
Yeah, and like I said, my comment with nickels and dimes is referring to a lesser amount, Commissioner. And like I said, option 3 with what Commissioner Bolt had requested was 6-day furloughs would bring that amount less by $150,000. So that option 3 would be a lot less than what's been presented to us this evening.
Well, I, for one, I think I'm going to stick with option 3. I think that's the lesser of all evils and still gets us where we need to be. We're going to float, but we're going to float on, and we'll look at it down the road, but it would affect the employees the least and take care of them as best we can with what we got, which isn't much right now. I get that, but I don't think we need to slam those employees right now. I just don't see that.
Thank you, Commissioner Collins. Any other comments from other commissioners?
So help me out here for a second, Gary. Maybe I'm not looking at this right. So basically the general fund has no money in it.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Whatever money we have, we're moving around to try to justify what we're spending in the general fund. And if my bad calculations are what they are, I'm saying $350,000 for the next 2 months, and then I'm shooting for 425 for the 4 months after that. That's $2.4 million. And if we take the path one, that would give us enough to recoup what we've lost in the general fund and have at least 2 nickels to rub together. Is that some bad math?
Well, I can't say that I understand all your numbers, but you're on the right track. It is not a guarantee that we would completely recover for the general fund, but it would be pushing us in the right direction.
Because what I'm looking at is typically the gross receipts run 3 months behind, correct?
Yes, sir.
So
Actually,
give or take a little bit. So we're still looking at December. So January would be October, February would be November, and then we've got December. We've got the shutdown, the third shutdown during that time frame again. So, you know, I was just looking at watching the traffic, watching my own business and the numbers we cranked out. So that's why I'm saying like 350, which is probably low for the next 2 months for January and February, and then hopefully getting a little bump Christmas, and then, you know, throughout the rest of the month. I'm seeing a small uptick. So that's the only hope I had. So that was the numbers I used to try to make sense of this. I hate to say it, but I understand the employee situation, and we always want to try to do the best, but I feel that if we don't take a harsh stance on this, that the other two may not be enough to recoup anything, and by the end of the year we will be even more financially in trouble than we are now.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Campos?
Yes, sir. Let me just respond to that. And I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Gandy. In taking a hard stance, though, we're not looking at it from the employee's viewpoint. I'll tell you what's going to happen if we take a hard stance. These employees, once we reduce their pay as you're proposing, and reducing the salary, they're going to start looking somewhere else, and they're going to go somewhere else. Whether it's the county, whether it's Hobbs, whether it's Texas, but we're going to start losing people. And where are we going to find people to replace the folks that we have now, which are great employees, by giving them less money than people are everywhere else? That's another dilemma that I think we as a board have to be responsible enough to consider. What's going to happen when we start hitting these employees pretty hard in the pocketbooks? They're going to do what you and I would do, look for a better option. So I think we need to be careful there.
I understand your point, Commissioner Campos. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't change something, their check's going to bounce. So what's the difference from a check that's, less to a check that's worth nothing?
But the checks haven't bounced yet. And they're not at a point where they're going to bounce.
Thinking.
If things get worse, then we look at adjusting it. This is a fluid time, gentlemen. These are uncharted territories, but we got to weigh everybody's lives and livelihoods, I think, because that's what's important as far as I'm concerned.
Commissioners, on my feelings towards what's been laid out in front of us, taking on what Commissioner Bolt had said earlier, on option one, reduce it down to 6 days. That way everybody gets a 1 day loss, and leave the rest the same on option one. just 1 day furlough. 6-day furloughs for option one, be the only adjustment for option one. That way, they're already taking, like Commissioner Campos said, they're already taking a hit. This way they'll only have 1 day a month. They would have to furlough instead of furloughing 24 days. But go with option one with only 6-day furlough. I don't know how you gentlemen feel about that.
And we're talking about,
Go ahead, sir.
we're talking about salary reduction for admin only at 20%.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Option one, the only thing, Commissioner, I'm changing on option one would be 6-day furlough instead of 24-day furlough, sir.
So we would be reducing the savings basically.
Yeah, down to, it would still put it, what number would we be looking at?
Essentially, that would be a lower savings than option three.
Okay, so it'd be lower than 3 then?
Yeah.
305,000? Because it'd be 300. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, because that was 12 days, so I did the wrong math on that. So that would be 305,000.
Oh, okay, you want to do it.
Yeah, it'd be 12 if we did 12.
So how much,
So it-
how much would the exact number be, Gary?
Yeah, it was 150. Gary, can you answer that one?
Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. The exact number, if we did exactly what the mayor proposed, was $1,450,373.
Yeah, 20 grand difference from option three. Is that what you're saying?
Thank you.
And gentlemen, I missed my math on that one because when Commissioner Bolt made that request, I wrote that number down. And I looked again at my notes and I went with 305, assuming it was 305, but it was 150. So it would have to be 12 days furloughs for it to add up to something.
That would make it $1,606,000 if we did the 12 days. For option one. For option one.
What was the total amount again here?
$1,606,117.
You're talking about total GF savings, right?
That's not the general fund portion. That's
Okay.
all the
The total, okay, 1.6, okay.
So repeat that, gentlemen, if you would, or let me see if I got it straight. Looking at option one, keeping the salary reduction admin at 20% and reducing the furloughs to 6 days. Is that correct?
No, Commissioner Campos, I'm mistaken with my math, and when Commissioner Bolt had made changes earlier, I wrote that number down, and it would have to be 12-day furlough instead of 24, sir.
So we're basically taking option three and adding 5% to the admin salary reduction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You're exactly right, Commissioner.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
So option three added 5% more to set for admin only on option three. Is that what my
Yes.
understanding is?
Yes, and not increasing the staff or the salary reduction across the board at all. I know it wouldn't be a whole lot, but that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that would add up, but still it's above, it still would be 1.606 million. Is that correct here?
So
Yeah, just one moment. My mouse is not working for me.
So option three, what we just do is add 5% more to admin only.
Yes. Yeah, the
Right.
$1,603,000 basically.
basically that's option two, less, about $90,000.
Yeah, that's it. It's option 2, less than 90,000.
Which option 2 is just a reduction in pay, staff reductions, overtime, and the non-personnel.
That affects everyone.
Yeah, I don't like option 2. I like option 3 with 20% admin only. What do you think, Commissioner Bolt?
I don't like the furlough days, but like I said, we gotta do what we can. With the admin, 20%. I could go with that. I could go with that, Paul.
Okay. Gentlemen, what about y'all? What do y'all think about that? It's kind of a meet in the middle kind of deal, you know?
Yeah, it's one of them options that trying to get everybody's little bit of input on one option.
I think it's a compromise, and we don't affect we don't affect the entire staff, we don't reduce everybody's salary. I know we hit the admin a little harder, and I'm sorry to do that as well. But to me, that's just the most viable option with affecting the least amount of people and still staying afloat. What do you guys think?
Commissioner Copples,
Yes.
one thing about it is on salary reduction, that if we don't include that, that means we don't take no pay away from the employees. I mean, we lose 30 employees, but we do not take no pay away from them. What do you doing a 5% to add to that, at least a 5% with employees, and that's all they're gonna, well, we are losing 30 employees, but we they take a 5% cut to add to this pot, to make it a little bit healthier in moving forward on reduction. Would you be in favor of a 5% added to employees? 20,
No, sir, I would not.
20% to admin, 5% to employees reduction.
No, sir, I would not be in favor of that.
Commissioner Gandy, do you have any other words?
Not that I can say in a recorded meeting.
I would open up the floor to City Manager James and Accountant Gary for their opinion on this. They have to work with these numbers every day, and I want to see if they're comfortable with what was just stated with the salary reduction of an admin only at 20% staff reduction, as is, and looking at option 3 as the only thing we're adding to option 3 would be 20%. From 15% to 20% on admin, and how do you feel about that, gentlemen? Do you strongly feel we can make it in the next 30 days if we had to come back in 30 days to make changes? Or do you feel like we would be more in the hole at this point? Please be open with us. We are as commissioners, we're here to do what's right for our community.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Gary. Gary, excluding the admin only, what is the figure monthly or pay? What's the payroll for the rest of everyone else per pay period?
Excluding the admin personnel,
Yeah.
I have to take just a little bit of math because I think I've got the total annual salary.
Because
Or just the admin, let me look.
include the staff reductions in that number for me, or deduct that for me out of that number, please. Hey, Jay,
Yes.
what was the, on the last raises we gave, what was the percentage of the employees?
It was 3%.
3%? All right, thank you.
So here's our annual cost for just the sick admin. No, it's just the hourly rate.
You just want to know what the remaining sick over the next 6 months for payroll.
Right.
So that would be, no, on the sports that.
Oh, that's 801. I can't see what it's not.
No, you're including, that's including benefits as well.
Right.
So that would-
Oh, right. Here's what
Mhm.
there we go. 680,000.
So 340.
Yeah, 340 for 6 months.
So whenever you remove the admin, we would be looking at over the next 6 months, 3.4 million payroll for all other employees.
So that would be if we left everything staffed, or would that be with the reductions?
That is with the staff reduction.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Gandy, can you clarify what you're asking for, sir? On an option?
Oh, I was just looking at the, I was trying to figure out the furlough days, the cost of the furlough days. If you had a reduction in staff, which I know is not popular, in salaries, would that justify or equal the amount of furlough days? Instead of having furlough days, you just have a reduction in 5%, 10%, whatever in staff. I know that's not going to be popular either, but I was just looking at a number, just to see if there was anything there worth playing with.
If I may, just to your mayor and commission, to give you something to work with that you can see, the reason the salary reductions on the admin on option 1 is 20% is 24 furlough days is equal to 20% of the staff. That's what their loss would be. That's why the admin is 20%. So that gives you something to work with. So if you knock that in half from the 24 days to the 12 days, then it's a 10% pay reduction for those furloughs.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Commissioner Campos.
question for Gary or James. Regarding non-personnel reductions, is that the bottom line, or is there anything there that we can also adjust to save even more money?
To be honest, sir, I don't know that we can cut operations any further without jeopardizing our ability to deliver, to do it safely.
Okay, thank you. Tell me, James, real quickly, on the proposed reduction in workforce. Of course, I'm always concerned with fire, EMS, and police. Reducing the current personnel from 35 to 28 for police, and reducing the fire and EMS personnel from 24 to 20. Is that gonna possibly keep us from providing this service to the citizens of Lovington in a favorable manner?
I know that it can be done, but I know we would be stretched very, very thin on personnel. But the issue that we face is that other departments have substantially less staffing and lower pay. So we had to look at it from what is an absolute critical staffing level that we need to have. We actually looked at that during our pandemic response to look at how many personnel in each department would be the minimum that we would need in order to continue those operations. And we have our critical needs, which were identified. And that's how we kind of came up with those numbers.
I appreciate that, James. So just for clarification, both chiefs were in agreement with the reduction. Is that correct?
They have not seen these numbers yet, but I know it has been discussed previously. Just looking at what can we do. But the only other, if we remove or reduce those particular numbers that I submitted to you, we've got to take those positions from somewhere else, which then we would not be able to conduct operations in other departments.
Yeah, I understand that, James. Thank you.
Okay.
Gary, Scott Bolt, question for you. I was looking at these needed cuts to achieve non-personal reductions. I see you got the chamber, Main Street Museum, ladder truck. What about, isn't the city giving the EDC funds also?
Yes, sir. However, the EDC has a dedicated tax revenue that supports it.
So can you explain that to me?
Yes, sir. You know how we were talking about the gross receipt tax that we receive? When we receive our gross receipt tax dollars, a portion of that is dedicated specifically to the EDC department.
Okay, and what will that amount be? Are they going to see any reduction or not?
We cannot reduce what we're paying to the EDC because it's a state law and, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That would actually be up to the city commission. The LEDA fund is what funds the Economic Development Corporation. The only way that you would be able to fund other auxiliaries through that would be through the, right, we'd have to go through the EDC board, and it would take legislative action from the commission as well in order to figure out how we could provide payment to those auxiliaries.
Okay, I'm just trying to look for reductions that we can have here.
That
Appreciate
particular
it.
reduction would have no bearing on the general fund, sir.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Another question. I know that we have an agreement with NOROE as far as with use of the health center and that. I don't know what we're paying per month on that, what kind of agreement we have. Is there any way of modifying that at all?
We haven't had any expenses in relations to that agreement, simply due to the fact that there have been no operating expenses due to the shutdowns. In order to modify that particular agreement, we would definitely have to discuss that with the hospital. But I do not recall the last payments or invoices that we received on it because there haven't been any operating expenses generated.
Okay, thank you again.
You probably get to it faster. No.
Is there any other discussion from commissioners?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think I'll let you know where I stand if you guys don't already know. I think I'm looking at option 3, and I'm not going to look at anything else besides that. The only thing that I would look at considering is raising the admin only to 20%. Otherwise, I'm locked in on that, gentlemen. I'm just letting you guys know now.
Thank you, Commissioner. I did make a note of that, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gandy, did you do any more numbers you want to bring up with?
At the moment, I am good.
Commissioners, I'm going to once again open the floor up to Accountant Gary and City Manager James on option 3 with salary reduction added with 20% with option 3. And can they work with this? That is my question to them. I'm going to leave the floor open to them and allow them to speak what they have to say.
If your mayor and commission, yes, it's a workable number. However, as I mentioned earlier, it's not enough with the 20% on the admin to help us really help the general fund recover. And that's really our biggest difficulty is the general fund needs to have money going into it, not coming out. And this is just riding the wire.
James?
So, as I referenced to earlier, Mayor and Commissioners, option 3, I told kind of the hope option that we really hope that GRTs will improve. We do not know when that will happen. If you do the math, much like Gary alluded to with the option 1, 24 furlough days is the equivalent of a 20% pay reduction. Whenever you look at option 3 with 12 days, that would be the equivalent of a 10% I know that just working with the math, we put our admin folks in there with a 20%, 15% reduction, which is more of a reduction than what our regular employees, or the non-salary employees, I apologize, would receive. But as we had pointed out, with even modifying option 3 by increasing the administrative salary reduction to 20%, you're only you're coming in at about $90,000 less than what option 2 would do, which everyone across the board, salaried and your non-salaried employees would receive. They would receive a 15% reduction in pay. We're not changing any of their health insurance benefits. There's no question with furlough days, do we need to modify city hours just because we don't have sufficient enough staffing to keep it open, keep a particular department open. The staff reductions, as much as I hate to see that occur, those are just an option that has to stay in play. And I truly appreciate, and I know I have struggled with this over affecting every employee, and as we had said at the beginning, this is going to touch every employee. But honestly, I would rather see an option 2 occur instead of furlough days, because everybody's pay would be cut. It wouldn't necessarily get us where we would need, but it would get us a little bit further ahead than what option 3 has presented us, where we can start to rebuild our reserves, hopefully, and also if revenues start coming in a lot more, we can start to rebuild those as well.
So my understanding, City Manager James Williams, your recommendation would be option 2. Is that correct, sir?
But that would be my recommendation based on the discussions that the commission has had tonight. From what I hear is it sounds like it's been going back and forth between option 2 and 3. But if I were to look at those, even with the modification that we had on option 3, I would go with option 2.
Thank you, sir. Now, I think from a management standpoint, that would be a lot simplifier instead of doing furloughs and trying to keep up with furloughs and using time to do that. And this other way is just straight across the board. And everybody from administrative all the way to the employees affected by it. Is there any discussion on option 2, commissioners?
So at this moment, Mr. Mayor, option 2, we're not going to do any furlough days. We're going to just keep it 0 furlough days. Keep the salary reduction at 15%. Go from there.
Yes,
That's how I understand
yes.
it right now.
Commissioner Bernard, option 2 remains the same, and that is what the city manager recommended. His recommendation was go with option 2. That was his recommendation, as is. Yes, sir.
Don't finish. I just had one comment.
Yes, sir.
Before you made a vote.
Yes.
To consider on the Main Street and Chamber and Museum, if you would, I guess, provide us direction to start a process to see if we could not utilize LEADA funding to fund these, the remaining commitments that we have with those organizations right now, mainly with our Chamber and Main Street, at least to the end of this fiscal year. Visited, Gary said that would be worth a shot. We can do that. It's going to take some action on this body's part. And I would simply just need direction to start that process. It would need to come in the form of a motion.
Commissioners, City Manager James Williams recommended that we fund the Lovington Chamber, Main Street Museum, and
No.
not the right? Just the three entities, right?
Yes.
So the three entities, he recommended that we would fund them through the LEADA fund, but we'd have to give him direction to take that to the LEADA board and they present it to them, and then from there to us to take that, make that decision. That way we would still meet our obligations with them three entities right there, with Lovington Chamber, Main Street, and Museum by utilizing the LEADA funds.
I'm good with that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I said I was good with that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Campos.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gandy?
I was under the impression that the LEADA fund had been used to make payroll.
It has to balance funds, but we do need to also consider that does have, let me pull that back up. It does have, on average this year, we're still looking at bringing in per month, the average right now is at $19,000 per month. That goes directly into that fund.
All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, do we have a motion on the table?
Not at this moment, sir.
Okay. Are we still discussing?
I was going to ask that, sir. Is there any further discussion, commissioners?
Not for me,
If
Mr. Mayor.
not, yeah, I'm sorry.
I said, no, sir,
Okay.
not for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Campos. If there is no further discussion, the floor is open for
A motion?
yeah, most typical. I just couldn't find it. Thank you, Commissioner Campos. I open the floor for a motion. Thank you.
I thought we had a
Mr. Mayor.
motion on the floor to discuss this, so anything that would transpire right here would make it, we'd have to have an amendment, is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner Gandy.
So whoever made the initial motion needs to make this motion, is that correct?
He would have to amend his motion to disregard his motion mainly because he just opened up the floor. That's all he did without making any motion, any option. He just opened the floor for discussion.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yes,
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we consider option 3, the salary reduction at admin only at 20% with the remaining factors in place.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Campos. We still have to amend the motion.
So, Commissioner, but yeah.
Okay.
Are you on the line, sir? I don't think he is.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend my motion from,
You just, yeah.
2021-01 to for option 3.
Just, yeah, just make your motion, sir. With, make your motion to, what we do,
To
disregard.
revise.
So, yes, so we currently have a motion on the floor. It's the original motion that started that. We do need to do something with that motion, so Commissioner Butcher has the ability to modify that motion if one of the commissioners would like to ask Commissioner Butcher if he would consider amending that particular motion to with language that they provide. He could consider that. If not, then you would need to vote on, we need to vote on the motion to decide what to do with it. If it fails, somebody can make another motion.
But at the time, I
Commissioner
really
Butcher?
didn't. Go ahead, Commissioner Campbell.
I was just gonna ask if you would consider option 3 with a salary reduction to admin only at 20% with the remaining numerics in place as is shown.
I'd like to amend that and go with what Commissioner Campbell said with option 3, and that's it.
I'll second that.
We gotta take a vote on. That's.
Okay, motion was made by Commissioner Bernard for option 3 with admin. The changes on option 3 would be salary reduction to 20%. That motion was made by Commissioner Bernard and it was seconded by Commissioner Campos. Roll call vote, Shannon.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Just to be clear, the salary reduction is to admin only at 20%, correct?
That is correct with option 3, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Shannon.
Commissioner Campos,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolt,
Yes.
Commissioner Gandy,
No.
Commissioner Butcher,
No.
Mayor Trujillo.
No. Motion fails. Do I have another motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, for option 2.
Would that be with changes or without changes?
Without changes.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Bernard for option 2 without changes, and it was seconded by Commissioner Gandy. Roll call vote, Shannon.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Commissioner Gandy,
Yes.
Commissioner Campos,
No.
Commissioner Bolt,
No.
Mayor Trujillo.
Yes. So option 2 has passed. Moving on to the other discussion James has mentioned earlier, he was asking the recommendation of the board to utilize LEADA funds to support Lovington Chamber reduction, Lovington Chamber, Main Street and the museum. He was asking for direction. How do you gentlemen feel about utilizing the funds to support them, support our obligations to them to complete the fiscal year? Does everybody feel comfortable with going ahead and utilizing them funds to support that?
I'm on board with it.
Commissioner Campos, do you feel comfortable with doing that, sir? I think, yes, you said it earlier, yes.
That's fine.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bolt?
I thought we needed that in there for our, to get us to our 400,000.
No, sir.
That's fund obligations.
What's that, sir?
That's general fund obligations.
Yeah, there's 2 separate taxes there, Commissioner Bolt. One goes directly to the LEADA fund, one goes to the general fund, and that tax is a separate one. It's in a separate coffin. And we're going to utilize that to support Lovington Chamber, Main Street, and Museum on our obligations towards them to complete the fiscal year. And we're asking, James was asking directions if we want to proceed and pursuing that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gandy?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
James, did you receive that recommendation? James?
These are all, I'll visit with the EDC.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Do I have a final motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Campos, second by Commissioner Bolt. Oh, Shannon?
Commissioner Butcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Compost,
Yes.
Mayor Trujillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Gandy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolt.
Yes,
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
We just sugarcoat stuff.